How's it going, guys? It's your boy Mike from Seattle, and today I have with me a special guest, first time on my channel, Joseph Darling, and he has a YouTube channel, Men of High Value. What we're going to talk about today is something that I don't really cover on my channel that much, and that's the struggles that both Joseph and I have gone through in our lives that have made us the men that we are. We're going to talk about the most difficult struggles that we've ever had to overcome, how we made it through that period of our lives. And then we're going to wrap it up by talking about the most difficult challenges and struggles we anticipate both for ourselves and for other men out there moving forward in 2024 and 2025. But first, Joseph, introduce yourself a little bit, man. Tell everybody about yourself.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me on, Mike. Yeah, I'm Norwegian. I have a wife and 3 kids. I'm a accountability and consistency coach working with startup entrepreneurs, guys who want to create a financial freedom for themselves and a different life for themselves, and need help to stay accountable for the 80-hour work week and stay disciplined on the journey. It's having someone there who's gone through the experience of being an entrepreneur and starting something fresh and new is always helpful. Like, I would say you get 2 times to 5 times more effectiveness as a result.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Having people to hold you accountable is important. And for a lot of people out there, I actually have a couple of videos talking about the 80-hour work week, which is how Joseph and I first interacted with each other, because we're both tired of all these lazy people making excuses and idolizing a 4-hour work week, when in reality, you should be pushing harder now, especially while you're young, you have energy. You should be pushing yourself to be the best that you can be and look for that relaxed lifestyle later in life. But Joseph, yeah, let's jump right in. So you and I are going to go back and forth and share. I'll start first. And when you propose this topic to me, what's the hardest challenge that I've ever had to overcome? And I was thinking about all the different things in my life that I've been through. I grew up very poor, Section 8 housing, food stamps, single mother household. My mom was a word that I can't say on YouTube for fear of being demonetized, but she got paid for intercourse. Biological father I've never met, illegal immigrant, grew up in a broken home, people getting arrested, all these different things. And I'm trying to sit there and think, what was the single lowest point in my life? And this is something I've kind of talked about tangentially on my channel before, but I don't always share it with everyone. And really, I think this is an experience that men are feeling, certainly in America. I'm not as sure what the stats are in Norway. And that would be going through divorce. Divorce is never good for anyone involved. The man, the woman, the children, the families, the community, the church, nobody. It's a lose situation all the way across the board. And when I had to go through mine, before I got married, I said to myself, I'll never get divorced. Now I have to first do the hard thing, which is to be accountable. I need to be accountable for the failures in my own marriage. And those failures came from ignoring red flags, a lot of youthful ignorance, optimism, hoping that the right things would happen if I made the necessary sacrifices. If I just kept moving forward in good faith, maybe things would get better. And they didn't. And I should not have married somebody or had a kid with somebody until I had seen the changes that needed to happen. Instead, I made those monumental decisions hoping the changes would come down the line. And that came back to bite me in the butt big time. And I know that it's bitten a lot of other people out there, both men and women, who've done similar things. It's a learning curve that I now have learned and try my best to help other people not make that mistake. But, some of us are dumb. We have to learn by doing. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part truly was going through the process of divorce. And this may sound misogynistic or sexist, and I don't care. Men are at a disadvantage when it comes to divorce. If you look at any of the statistics, they do very poorly, in the United States at least. Just from a child rearing perspective alone, if you want 50-50 time with your children, you're not going to get it unless your wife agrees to it. You just don't get it. It doesn't matter if there's no allegations against you. It doesn't matter if you're a wonderful father. The court has to assign a custodial parent. And then the court makes the decision that the children need to live primarily with one parent over the other because it's in the best interest of the children, according to the court. So they dictate that you get a significantly minimized amount of time with your child. And there's nothing, again, nothing you can do about it unless the person who you're divorcing, which probably isn't under the greatest of terms, agrees to give you 50-50. So at the same time, you're being told you've seen this child every single day, the child's entire life. You want to be an active role in your child's life. You want to be there as a father. You're being told the best that you can get is every other weekend. That's what you get. And of course, it varies a little bit depending on the state, but that's what you get. You go from 24/7, well, not 24/7, you go from 7 days a week to 1 or 2 days out of every 14. And then the extra kick in the teeth is, of course, now you're responsible for potentially alimony and child support. Now, I have no problem with the idea of child support. And I think most men, obviously they're just deadbeats, but I don't think most men are particularly frustrated when it comes to having to take care of the obligations for their children. I think what frustrates them the most is oftentimes most men are not the ones initiating a divorce. And so there's a separation happening that they don't want to happen. On top of that, now already struggling financial situations, which most people are in living paycheck to paycheck, are now being exacerbated because you're paying out a bunch of additional money, because some of that money that's going to child support is also going in to pay for some housing and some food and some things like that. And so anybody who actually knows, I don't really spend $1,000 a month on my child to feed them and clothe them, but I now have to spend, well, it's because that money gets reappropriated elsewhere. And again, I don't think most men have a problem taking care of their kids. But I think the problem comes when you're already taking a difficult financial situation and exacerbating it. And most of the time it's against the guy's will completely, because you can divorce someone for no reason at all. We don't have fault divorce in the US anymore. We have no fault divorce. Things could be perfectly fine. Your wife could walk up to you and say, I'm bored. And there's nothing you can do about it. And so as I'm sitting there being told, you don't get to see your child anymore. Now you have a financial obligation. You were already struggling to try to make ends meet for your little family. Now you're going to have to work harder. And what I did was the dumb thing. I said I didn't want to go into a whole bunch of debt. So I started working copious amounts of overtime. I'm only allowed to see my kid 1 day a week anyways. May as well work my extra days off. It's good to be around other people instead of just sit at home and be depressed. So I started working crazy amounts of overtime to pay for this expensive lawyer. I didn't know that when it then came time 6 months down the road to discuss how much money I would pay in child support, that they would take into consideration the ridiculous amount of overtime that I had worked.
Oh,
and I tried to make the argument, Your Honor, that I think it's unfair to hold me to a standard where I have to work this many hours a week. Because my goal was never to do this much work all the time. My goal was to hopefully not go into debt. And when this ridiculous divorce cost goes away, I'll be able to back it off just a little bit and maybe spend more time with my child. And you know what they said? That's too bad. If you tried, and I also asked the question, what if I don't work this overtime next year? Can I get a reassessment for a lower rate? No, that's considered bad practice or malintent. So I worked all this overtime and created for myself a much higher bill than I needed. I now created for myself all this additional work that I have to do to try to keep up with it. I can't even back off of it and say, hey, see, this is what I normally make, because now they're going to hold that against me. I barely get to see my child anymore. The relationship's fallen apart. I don't live in the house that I worked hard to get. I'm now stuck living in a bedroom, my grandparents' house. It's one of the lowest points that many men face. And this is a reason why, and again, for YouTube, I have to be careful the words I use. A lot of men will just self-delete after going through a divorce. And that's never the right answer. I don't condone it, but I do understand the frustrations. Now, I don't say all of this whole story, for your sympathy or to feel bad for me. I share this with you because out of the interest of our topic of conversation, I think it's important to be transparent. And this is really, truly the lowest point of my life. I think it's the only time I've cried as an adult was when I walked out of that mediation process with the arbiter after just getting, or the arbitrationist, after just getting my clock cleaned. I think it's the only time I've cried in my adult life. I was livid. And I stopped myself. I had probably had 2 tears, and I stopped myself and I yelled at myself, because all I said was, you got to be accountable for yourself. You did this to yourself. You should have done better. You knew better. The reason I tell this story, because there is a positive note to end on. Instead of quitting, I kept working. I worked even harder. I embraced the 80-hour work week. I started buying real estate. I started buying rentals. I started investing all my money. Now I have 27 rental units. I'm a multimillionaire. I have full custody of my son. That's a whole other story. The end of the story is I win because I didn't give up. It sucked, but I embraced it. And then I just pushed forward. And so for anybody out there going through a similar process, please reach out to me, reach out to Joseph. We're the type of people who don't want to see men self-delete. And a lot of men get into the worst spot of their life emotionally, financially, physically, their health declines. There are people out there who care about you, who will help you, who will get the resources, who just sit around and play some video games with you. Don't try to do it alone. All right, Joseph. So enough about me, man. I don't like to get this emotionally deep about myself. So bail me out here and tell me about something you've struggled with, man.
Oh, shoot. How do I top that story? That's insane. Woo! All right. Oh, dang. Oh, well, first of all, congratulations for getting out of that, the ditch and the hole there. Yeah. What's interesting is that my biggest challenge also includes family life and relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the reasons why I actually tell men very wisely to procrastinate getting romantically involved with women until you've set yourself up. Not necessarily just to set yourself up financially, but for you to go through hardships and rejection so that you can understand more about life before you take on the responsibility of a family romantically, like, the romantic aspect of it, and also the, having children. I'll just mention this before I go into my into my challenges, but I look at life as 5 levels of leadership. You got 1, allow yourself to be led. Number 2, lead yourself. Number 3, lead others or a team of men, preferably. And lead women is the 4th one. And then lead kids as the last one. And that we do it in order, because the more you do that in order, the more you'll understand more about yourself, more about life, and eventually you'll be able to have a successful family life. So how do I get to that understanding? It's because of my own mistakes, right? My mess became my message in many ways. And why am I working today with men and helping them to move towards financial freedom? Because of exactly this. So 2.5 years after getting married, I was probably 25 years old. We've had 2 kids already. And my wife told me that she didn't want to divorce me. So she used those exact words. I don't want to divorce you.
Ominous.
Right. And for me, that's like, oh, so you actually do want to, right? So that's kind of how I go in my head. And that's when I sat her down and I actually took leadership, and I just wanted to know everything. Like, I don't want to judge. I don't care about what you think, feel, or whatever, like in terms of judging you. I just want to understand, because like I feel like I'm doing a great job as a husband. I feel like I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do. We're having 2 kids. Things are kind of good. Like, it would be ridiculous to get a divorce. And so she sits down and she bursts into tears from the fact that I'm actually willing to listen to her. And I guess, her, all of the stuff that she had thought but never shared. And that started a journey of a decade of studying female nature and understanding what it is that women need, want, desire, and the how do I say it in English? The fact that they sometimes want something that they don't want. So the oxymoron of female nature. And that's been a very interesting journey. So what I came to understand is that obviously she wasn't attracted, because if a woman is attracted to a man, she'll never let him go. Like, it doesn't work that like that. It's only starts because the aspect of being bored, or because it's so hard and so difficult and whatever. But it's difficult because she doesn't trust the man, and usually that's the issue. And so we didn't get a divorce. she was willing to like, she didn't understand herself. So she didn't understand why, because her parents had gone through a divorce and she had told herself that she was never going to get a divorce. So the fact that she was even thinking these thoughts were like, I don't like that. I want to understand why I'm thinking these thoughts. So she participated in understanding the woman. And we're still married 15 years later. And
Congrats.
yeah, right. We got 3 kids. And that started me on my journey of moving towards success in entrepreneurship and understanding how money works, because, you know, it helps in every aspect of life when you have some money. Obviously, if you end up getting a divorce and you didn't have a, you know, prenuptial agreement, then of course she takes more money because you have more. But if you're wise about those things and you actually manage to keep her, because that's the key. My discovery was that women, if you actually do understand how they function, they will follow you to the ends of the world. And that's not to kind of tell people that, oh, you lost your woman, it didn't work out, then, you know, it's because of your ignorance. Because a lot of people sometimes, when I, you know, explain to them that it could have maybe been prevented, then they're like, oh no, but she was this and she was that, and da, da, da. But the thing is that we can't look at our past relationships as victims, because that means that we didn't learn from the experience and that we can't succeed in the future as well. Because the more we look at ourselves as victims, the more it happened to us. That means that it's more likely that it happens to us again in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it means we haven't learned from the experience and brought with us the wisdom that failure brings. And that's been my experience. I was failing, and to be honest, like, I'm still failing forward, you know, in the relationship, right? And my quest is for her to be passionately in love with me, right? But monogamy has its issues, which I do talk about a little bit on my channel. But yeah, that's been the biggest challenge of mine. And to be honest, it's also the biggest driving force that I have in my life. Like, I'm a family man. She's a family woman. Like, she wants things to work. And as a result, it has worked. But also largely because I was willing to learn how the woman works and to give her the things that she needs, but also make sure that I say no a lot in order for her to feel that she hasn't won.
Right.
Because that, like, if she feels that she's in complete control of the relationship, that's your problem. That's when it gets boring. So when you as a man decide, no, we're going here, but you're doing it in a people-skilled way with having a standard and in a loving, kind way, she now can trust you more instead of being emotionally heated and doing and arguing. Like, I could go on and on about the woman and how it works. That's not what this video is about. So yeah, that's my biggest challenge in life.
It's very interesting that it really comes down to relationships, but it makes sense. Relationships have the most potential to be messy, to blow up, to cause the most pain and turmoil. Virtually any other struggle that you go through, you know, maybe save major personal health events, which are just unknown and very hard to control. Most other struggles you'll go through, there is a pathway out that you can break down into steps and start making progress towards them. But when it comes to relationships, it's tricky because emotions are involved. Irrationality takes over. You're completely out of control. You can't control another person. And so then that creates more anxiety, more uncertainty, more fear, more stress. And who knows how it's going to end. And then, of course, the relationships, successful relationships is how we define ourselves and what we should be pursuing in life. And when someone that's so important, monumentally important, like a wife, when that's on the chopping block, the stakes can't get any higher than that. And so I understand why that was your lowest, hardest struggle, as was for me. I'm glad you were successful. I'm glad you were able to. to keep it together. You're right. It's a struggle every day. If I could ask, I would say we should touch on real quick, because otherwise the video would be incomplete.
Right.
When you were going through these low points, we heard what it was. We heard you made it through. But when you were in the trenches fighting daily, probably, I'm sure, with the anxiety and the stress in your own brain, how did you get to the next day and to the next? What were you thinking? What did you do to power through?
Well, I mean, this was also during a financial stressful time. Like, you have barely started your career. You have no idea, how much you're going to make next month. You're trying to have a job while having a business, while having a wife at home with 2 kids. And so, I mean, I guess she was in a little bit tricky situation because she was in my home country in Norway and not speaking the language. And it's like, what, am I going to go home to America and live with my dad, which I don't like, So she kind of, in many ways, didn't have any options as well, which was good for me. So, yeah. I mean, sometimes you have to have the upper hand in some of those things. So how did I carry on? I guess I just believed that it was going to work. And I didn't allow myself to get bogged down by the potential of failure, right? It's like what you fear is you're gonna attract it. Instead, you have to move forward with confidence, believing that it's going to work out eventually and improve. And you have to just work on yourself. Like, what is it that I can do? And I was obsessing over this, which is not necessarily the best thing to do when you're trying to make things work with the woman. Like, the more you work on the relationship, the faster it goes down the drain. She's the one that needs to work on the relationship, not you. Right? And so the key for me was work. The key for me was work, because that helped her to believe that we're going to get eventually out of this hole, which helps the marriage, like, and also showing her that I am able to, I have power, I can, say something and then actually follow through with it and keep my promises. And so, yeah, the secret is always work, to be honest. Unless it's, you're losing your health as a result, or, your wife says that you're working too much, although I don't, yeah. But the secret is work, as long as you, as you're wise about it.
I think it's very interesting. I think men, we need a list of actions we can take and that we can start working on. And it can be as simple as, you're going to the gym today. The push-ups have to be done. You're going to go to work and you're going to do a good job. You're going to be productive. Maybe you need to work overtime and make a little bit of extra money. Maybe you need to reach out and start networking with more people so that you can learn how to be better. Strangers have all of the secrets to life and all the keys to all the doors you want open. You need to go out there and meet these people.
100%.
And so, as men, I would say the best way to get through the most difficult struggle that you're going through is to recognize that you put one foot in front of the other, and no matter how hard it is, you do not let it paralyze you or cripple you by keeping you inside, locked away, and depressed. You have to force yourself, drag yourself out of the house and go to the gym, talk to your friends, and go to work. So I like that. Joseph, okay, that's our backstories. Now, real quick, I want to pivot to modern times. What do you think right now is the biggest challenge that men in general are facing in 2024 and moving forward over the next few years here?
I think it goes very much in line with what we just spoke about. I think I think we've let go of the reins and the ropes of our responsibility as men, actually being men, and understanding that we have way more power than we think, and basically surrendering to femininity and being victims of our circumstance. We can do way more than we think. We have massive potential, and moving towards femininity will only cause women to become more masculine. And when we're both genders going against nature, it's going to cause exponential problems. So that, I would say, that's the biggest issue that men are facing. And the way to solve that is to become more attractive. Like, increase your sexual market value, your SMV as they call it, and become a better, stronger, fitter, faster man, and increase that testosterone of yours with the gym, with work, and with the right network of brotherhood to and help each other get to the next level continuously. I think because the information is out there. Like you were talking about how like health issues might happen, relationship issues are also very difficult because we can't control the other person. But there is a science and an art to everything, right? And so if we can actually learn to become millionaires and multimillionaires and get abundance in that category of life, why can't we experience abundance in also the other two categories of life if we understand how that works? Because making money is a science. It's like Grant Cardone says, it's like, have you run the numbers? Run the numbers and find out, right? And make a plan and move towards it. And it's the exact same thing in the relationship aspect and health aspect of life.
A point that I made recently on another podcast was a concern that I have when it comes to the United States and how much foreign aid that we give. And there's nothing wrong with giving foreign aid. We should absolutely help people less fortunate than ourselves. But when we can't even help the people here at home first, when I see homeless people on the street everywhere, when I see kids that aren't able to participate in the programs they would like to because their school system is so poor and so broken, like where I invest in Indiana, where the streets are bad and the crime is bad. If we can't help our own people first, why are we spending so much helping others? The same thing applies to yourself as an individual, as a man. People, first of all, aren't going to take you seriously. They're not going to look to you for help, and they're not going to take your advice with any amount of credibility if you don't first look like the man they can look up to. Life gets so much easier. Things click so much better when you're strong and you're physically fit and you're working hard and you're producing resources and money, and when you're well connected and well networked, and when you've been through struggles in life and you've come out on top, and now people can come to you and ask for advice and you actually have something to offer them in terms of a pathway forward to success. It starts with working on yourself first. And this is a journey that the younger you learn, the better off you are. And nobody is coming to save you. Making excuses won't help. If you develop a victim mentality, you're crippling yourself forever. Take total accountability. I am responsible for the failures in my marriage. Obviously, there was 2 people in there, but I should have done better. I should have played the game differently. There were different moves on the chessboard I could have made, and I didn't make the right ones. That's on me, and I got to own that. So we'll wrap it up with that. The best advice that we both have for you guys is do everything you can to be the highest value man you possibly can. In all of the different categories of success that you can pursue them with diligence, and pursue them and get help and look for mentors like Joseph, who, once again, Joseph, tells everybody where people can find you.
I'm on Instagram and Telegram at Men of High Value, and just say that, hey, I saw you on Mike's podcast.
Right. And on YouTube.
And on YouTube, absolutely.
Right. Joseph, thanks so much for coming on the channel, man. I appreciate the chat, and we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
Appreciate you, Mike. Talk to you soon.